A contemporary fishing vessel that is over 70 meters in length goes on a large-scale tuna fishing excursion in the deep waters of the North Atlantic, where the waves are high and the weather is unpredictable. In order to ensure that the fishing is carried out in the most efficient manner possible, and that the fish that are taken are of the greatest possible quality, there are more than 30 skilled sailors on board, and they are working non-stop, day and night. When it comes to the food processing and trade industries, tuna is a fish that is highly appreciated, and the purpose of this journey is to collect approximately 120 tons of tuna. This method is not only the product of traditional fishing tactics, but it is also the result of a mix of modern technology and the ability to organize the work in such a manner that it is entirely exact, even down to the tiniest detail. In other words, this method is the result of both of these things. A comprehensive examination of the entire troll system had been carried out by the skipper and the fishermen at an early hour of the morning, when the sky was still shrouded in fog. Large schools of tuna move through the middle and deep water on a regular basis, and a giant bottom net is designed to drag in these areas so that it may capture them. The width of this net is measured in dozens of meters, and it is positioned behind the ship with great care. In addition to it, there is a network of steel cables and hydraulic draw lines that are connected to one another. The ship was able to zero in on the area that held a significant amount of tuna with the assistance of the cutting-edge radar system and fish finder. After that, it began to lower the net into the ocean and began catching the tuna. Each and every step of the procedure was carried out in a manner that was not only quick, but also closely coordinated. During the process of gently releasing the net, the hydraulic crane caused the wire to be dragged down into the sea for hundreds of meters, which ultimately led to the construction of a gigantic bag on the ocean floor. After almost 3 hours of the net being hauled underwater, the sensor system that was linked to the mouth of the net gave a signal to the captain, alerting him that the school of tuna had been herded into the net. With an estimated mass of more than 100 tons, the captain was informed that the school of tuna had been brought under the net. As soon as the captain was given the command, the net was promptly brought back into place. When the large winch system started operating, it began to pull the heavy net that was full of fish closer to the surface of the water. This was done in a gentle manner. At this very moment, a scene that was just stunning was going place. During the process of being tightly packed in a net bag that gradually rose up in the waves of the ocean, thousands of silver mackerel, which ranged in length from 40 to 60 centimeters, fought intensely against one another. A number of fish emerged from the water and fell on the deck, generating the unmistakable sounds of crashing that are associated with fish. These sounds were heard by the spectators. Almost immediately after the net was pulled close to the side of the ship, the crew members took advantage of auxiliary equipment in order to quickly secure the mouth of the net. As a means of getting ready for the second stage, which consisted of sucking fish from the net into the hold, this was done. During this period of time, the modern fish suction mechanism was established and put into service. A large suction pipe with a diameter of around 40 to 50 centimeters was dropped toward the bottom of the net, which was located immediately adjacent to the mouth of the net. A vacuum system and a high-pressure pump were both installed at the very end of the pipe once it had been fabricated. It was then that the machine started to pull fish in with a tremendous deal of force. The suction pipe was utilized to draw each line of mackerel into the processing compartment of the ship, and the system was followed directly into the compartment while the operation was being carried out. It is possible that, on average, a little more than 150 pounds of fish could be sucked onto the deck every 15 minutes. In the meantime, fishermen maintain a close check on the suction process. They make certain that the suction pipe does not become blocked or contaminated with undesirable items such as pieces of net, seaweed, or waste fish, since they want to avoid these things. Once the mackerel has been sucked into the hold, it will then tumble down a lengthy chute that will lead to the region where the preliminary sorting will take place. This will eventually lead to the desired outcome. In order to ensure that the fish are distributed evenly and that any fish that are undersized, damaged, or dead are removed, The workers here put in a lot of effort and wear gloves to protect themselves from slipping. In order to remove the blood and mucus that is on the exterior of the fish, fish that are able to meet the requirements for size and freshness are placed in a washing system that utilizes high-pressure cold water. This is done in order to remove the flesh from the fish. Immediately after that, the fish are promptly transferred to the conveyor system, which ultimately goes to the deep freezing room that is housed inside the ship. This process takes place until the fish are completely frozen. A temperature of -35 degrees Celsius is always maintained in this freezing chamber, which is a space that is extremely cold. Because of its ability to fast freeze fish, it can do so in as little as 30 to 45 minutes after the fish have been taken from the water. Strong protective clothing, boots that are resistant to cold, and masks that are snugly fitted are the components that make up worker protection. After that, it was divided into a few other groups. Over the course of some of the groups, the fish were transferred from the chute into gigantic trays that were made of stainless steel. Other personnel were responsible for stocking the stacked tray freezer with fish inventory. In order to maintain the quality of the fish flesh, the procedure of quick freezing helps to block the growth of bacteria and other microorganisms that are responsible for rotting. This is done in order to maximize the preservation of the fish meat. Immediately after the fish has been frozen, the trays are carried to the area that is allocated for packaging and deep storage. This occurs immediately after the freezing process. In order to preserve the fish, large plastic crates are utilized, and QR codes are utilized in order to keep a record of each capture, along with the date, time, and water coordinates. After the fish have arrived at the port, this is done in order to guarantee that they can be tracked down and identified accordingly. Until the ship returns to port after spending a considerable amount of time at sea, these crates will be stored in a storage compartment at a temperature of -25 degrees Celsius. This will continue until the ship gets back in port. It is necessary to carry out the entirety of this process on multiple occasions throughout the course of the journey, which lasts for more than 10 days. The ship has the ability to catch anywhere from 10 to 15 tons of fish in a single batch each time the net is pulled, provided that it is fortunate enough to come across a large school of fish. This is the case only if the ship is unsuccessful in catching the fish. The captain was constantly required to carefully calculate the direction in which the fish were moving, the weather conditions, and the productivity of the crew in order to achieve the desired overall output. This was necessary in order to achieve the desired overall output. The whole weight of the mackerel that was on board had reached 120 tons by the 8th day, which is a large quantity that reflects the efficacy of the voyage in terms of both the generation of the fish and the technique of preserving the fish's quality. During this time period, the environment on board was difficult due to the constant strain of labor. However, there was also a tremendous sense of pride that was present aboard. During the shifts that the sailors worked in the freezer area, they checked the temperature, cleaned the compartment, maintained the machinery, and packed the fish. This was done with the intention of ensuring that there were no accidents that occurred. The idea that even a slight mistake could result in the destruction of a shipment that was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars was something that each and every one of them was intimately familiar with. When I got outside, the sea was still churning and crashing. There were clouds in the sky that were gray in color, and the wind was so cold that it blasted through the protective clothing despite the fact that it was wearing it. While this was going on, the freezer continued to function normally inside the hold without any interruptions.